Well, hi everybody. It's Friday night, and you can see I have a beverage next to me. Shiner Bock beer out of Texas. And why am I drinking Texas beer other than the fact that I like it? Because I can't believe I've never done a video about ranking Willie Nelson's albums. Uh, I don't think it's ever been intentional to not, right? I can't believe I never have. And I've been posting a lot about Willie Nelson and discussing it a lot on social media. And cheers to you. And so I was thinking, well, I should do my top 10, and then I decided to make it a top 12 on the basis that I've said before, I believe I don't really do honorable mentions. You know, if you want to talk about an album, then just talk about the album. And I've done a top 6 and a top 7 and whatever else before. So I'm going to do my top 12 Willie Nelson albums. And, there's not a lot I can say about Willie that isn't out there, in print anyway. I can only talk about what his music means to me. And he has been just a guru through his music for the last 21, 22-ish years. He's gotten me through some really hard times. He's been there through the really good times. There's not a bad time to listen to Willie Nelson music. Now he has just probably a couple hundred albums between record labels and compilations and duets and groups, and it's almost endless. It's overwhelming. I don't even claim to be a Willie Nelson completist, and believe it or not, I'm not going to try. I can only say that his music, his writing has just meant so much to me over the years. And, we especially turn to good music that touches us in times of struggle and hard times. And I'm not going to go into it, but I'm kind of going through that. Not kind of, am. And so Willie's music has been a frequent spin lately, more records and CDs. I've got 70 some odd albums of him, his duets, his groups, etc. But I'm only going to focus on albums that are either Willie Nelson, under the moniker Willie Nelson. I can't remember if there's Willie and Family in here. But anyway, so I'm just going to focus on just Willie, not Willie and Waylon, not the Highwaymen, not the million other duets he's done, etc. So starting off at number 12. Now, this actually was number 11 until I went and listened to the other number 12 the other night. I had started to make a video and didn't like the direction of it. And so I happened to put it on, and it actually went up in the ranking. So let me preface too, I love every one of these albums. Every one of these I consider to be an 8 out of 10 or more. And so I don't have a lot bad to say about them. I'm sorry, that's going to be kind of boring. So anyway, 1971, what is arguably his first concept record, Yesterday's Wine, about the cycle of life, birth, death, everything in between. 2 of his most well-known songs are on here, Me and Paul and Yesterday's Wine. But there's also, Family Bible, which he wrote back in the 50s, and he sold for, I don't know, a couple $100 or less to a guy named Claude Gray, who ended up taking the songwriting credit, even on this album. It's not what we know as a fully formed Willie Nelson record, but it's getting there. His voice is a bit stoic, not quite as dynamic as it would become, but the songs on here are great. He was going through a lot in his personal life at the time too, and so this is just one of those. It still has a bit of an old school Nashville feel, but yet he had control here for the most part. And Yesterday's Wine is a dynamite album. So that's number 12. Number 11 was number 12. And I had this album for years and years and years and never spun it. And I regret that now because I really love it. The 80s to me were not a kind time to Willie's music as far as the production. I will go on record as saying I hate most of Chips Moman's productions. And Willie used Chips Moman on most of his albums in the early to mid 80s. One he did not is 1983's Tougher Than Leather. There are no big hits on this one, but it's a concept album and about love, loss, redemption, murder, jail, all kinds of fun stuff. He produced it himself with his bass player Daniel B. Spears, and they recorded it at his home studio in Texas, and he used his road band. And you listen to this: Willie Nelson, Grady Martin on guitar, Jody Payne guitar, Mickey Raphael, who has never played a bad note, on harmonica, B. Spears on bass, Paul English on drums, little sister Bobby Nelson on piano, and Johnny Gimbel on fiddle and mandolin. And if you have not heard this album, and many people have not, it flew under the radar. It still flies under the radar. It's never gotten the credit it's due. Great songs on here: My Love for the Rose, Changing Skies, Tougher Than Leather, Little Old Fashioned Karma, neat version of Beer Barrel Polka that Bobby leads, Summer of Roses, which I believe, yes, is actually on Yesterday's Wine. He re-records that, and a bunch more. So really, this is just a solid. It has a very 70s Willie feel to it, very outlaw country, very stripped down, minimalist, not Redheaded Stranger minimalist, but full band, no overdubs, no fancy stuff, no fancy production. Just Willie and his band playing some amazing music. And so this actually went up from number 12 to number 11. Tougher Than Leather. Number 10. Sorry if I'm kind of going through these fast, but I don't want to make a super long video. 2018. Sorry for the glare. Like I've always said, I keep the plastic wrap on if I can. Last Man Standing. And Willie's later years here, he's put out some amazing albums and a couple that I wasn't too fussy about. That said, this is one of his absolute best of the last 20 years. I'll talk about it a little later, but the early 2000s were not a great time for Willie. He made some really great songs, but not really any great albums. This is a great album. It's part of his trilogy about mortality and aging. I don't want to be the last man standing. Wait a minute, maybe I do. I love the humor in there. It's a really sort of slow, funky shuffle of a song. Don't Tell Noah, Bad Breath is Better Than No Breath at All. Great song on here called Something You Get Through. It's a conversation he had with his dentist, of all things, and it's about grief and loss. And grief is not something you get over, it's something you get through. Friday Night and It's Ready to Roar, Heaven is Closed, She Made My Day but She Wrecked My Life. I'll try to do better next time. I've got very far to crawl. Just a solid album. Somebody can in production and co-writes, I can take or leave. This one, highly recommend this album for a latter day Willie album. I think at most he did 2 vocal takes. He got in and out and did it great, and played Trigger. And of course Trigger is his guitar. So that's number 10. I said just a minute ago that the early 2000s were not a great time as far as Willie albums, and I stand by that. Even though there are songs I really love, the albums, just to me, they don't speak to me. Maybe they do to you, But in 2010, Willie got together with famed Americana and roots producer T-Bone Burnett of, much fame, especially in the 90s with the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack. And Willie decided to do a stripped down, old school country music record, and he called it Country Music. And this one I picked up. I don't buy from chain stores often. I picked this up at Cracker Barrel of all places, because I believe the vinyl was only available through Cracker Barrel. And I thought, well, I've had the CD for years, and this was, and if you're familiar with Bob Dylan's work, in the early 90s he released a duo of albums of old blues and acoustic folk songs and roots songs, Good As I've Been to You and World Gone Wrong, and that was just Bob and his guitar. And this is not just Willie and his guitar. However, it goes back to the roots in the 40s and 50s, Man with the Blues, Seaman's Blues, Dark as a Dungeon, Gotta Walk Alone, Satan, Your Kingdom Must Come Down, Satisfied Mind, Pistol Packin' Mama, 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15 songs. None of them are particularly long. Closes with just a powerhouse rendition of Nobody's Fault But Mine. And again, this is kind of stripped down, and see, you know, Willie Nelson, Buddy Miller, some of the McCurry, Stuart Duncan, Mickey Raphael, Jim Lauderdale. Yeah, just a sort of a who's who of Americana music. You know, the great Stuart Duncan on fiddle. And so, yeah, he went back to the basics for this, and it's mostly acoustic, if not all acoustic, if I can remember right, which is sad since it's in my top 12. Number 9, 2010's Creative Rebirth, Willie Nelson Country Music. If you can't find the vinyl, you know what, get the CD. It sounds good too. I have it. It's well worth owning, and this is kind of hard to come by now. So let's see, 12, 11, 10, 9. Number 8, and this is the album that spurred this whole wanting to do this video. I talk about Willie's later work, and it doesn't get much later than being released in April of this year of 2022. This may be the last Willie album, it may not, you never know. Everyone could be the last. He released it on his 89th birthday. It's called A Beautiful Time. It opens with a song written by Chris Stapleton and Rodney Crowell called I'll Love You Till the Day I Die. And it might be the best song Willie's recorded 10 years or more. I love that song. Willie didn't write it, but he's a master interpreter of songs. He always has been. My Heart Was a Dancer was kind of a funny one about loving a stripper. I Don't Go to Funerals and I Won't Go to Mine. A Beautiful Time, he talks about life on the road. We're Not Happy Till You're Not Happy, written by the great Sean Camp. So if you're familiar with Guy Clark's work, you'll know Sean Camp. We're Not Happy Till You're Not Happy, I love it. He covers Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen on here, and it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. Covers the Beatles with a little help from my friends, and he rearranges it so much that you wouldn't even know it was a Beatles song, even though it's so well written. But there are other songs he wrote on here too. Me and my partner, Dusty Bottles. Energy Follows Thought. You know, so here's the front, here's the back. You know, this Willie's voice sounds, especially for his age, it's so strong here. A Wonderful Time, number 8 out of 12 out of my all-time favorite Willie Nelson records. So, you know, it takes a lot for a new album to be that high. Man, every time I listen to this, I love it more and more. Lucky number 7. I just found a vinyl copy of this not that long ago, last year I think, and it's been hard to come by for years. And I thought, well, and it's in pretty good shape. I'd say very good plus. Willie in the early 70s was having a creative rebirth and creative freedom like he'd never known before, and he signed with Atlantic Records, their country music division, and the first album he put out was Shotgun Willie. See, I took the glare away a little bit. So this is 1973, and the title track, the iconic Whiskey River, is on here. Sad Songs and Waltzes Aren't Selling This Year. Slow Down Old World covers the Bob Wills and Tommy Duncan song Stale Night, Stay a Little Longer, which has of course been a huge part of his set for many, many years. The Cindy Walker song, she was a great Texas songwriter, Bubbles in My Beer. The album ends with A Song for You, the Willie Nelson song, and it's just he and his acoustic guitar, and it's haunting, it's beautiful. So from 1971, and then I think there were 2 more albums between Yesterday's Wine and this. Willie found his voice here. He was allowed complete creative freedom. There are horns on here, which you'd think don't make sense, and for country music they really didn't back then, other than when Johnny Cash used them. This is, again, just he and the band he wanted to use, recorded in Memphis, and just it's funky, it's cool, it's fun, it's sad, and this is one that, you know, the first time I heard it years ago, I think I was too young and inexperienced in the ways of the world to really understand it and appreciate it. And as I've gotten older, this is a go-to album. And so Shotgun Willie, lucky number 7. So, yeah, I mean, we're really moving up here. Number 6, again, I talk about Willie's 80s work, and I'm not a big fan. And so this is another one that he recorded 1985 at his Pedernales studios in Spicewood, Texas, and he produced himself, and it's made up of a handful of Billy Joe Shaver songs and some of his old songs that he wanted to just re-record for the fun of it. And it's the Me and Paul album. Here's another one that for years you couldn't find. It was out of print. I don't think it's ever been re-released on vinyl. And it's just a fun album. They just went in for the sake of it. You know, similar to Tougher Than Leather, but this is more re-records. It opens with I've Been to Georgia on a Fast Train, closes with Black Rose, you know, both Billy Joe Shaver classics. Old Five and Dimers Like Me is on here. And then he covers Pretend I Never Happened, Me and Paul, One Day at a Time, Forgiving You Was Easy, but Forgetting Seems to Take the Longest Time, which I can relate to a lot nowadays. And anyway, and you know, music hits us, it touches us when we need it. And this is just about the same album, or just about the same lineup as Tougher Than Leather from a couple years before, except Billy English, Paul English's brother, is on percussion and drums, and there's no Grady Martin, or there's Grady Martin, but there's no Johnny Gimbel. So anyway, number 6, Me and Paul. Love that album. And that, you know, I really don't see him much anymore. I had a very dear friend for many, many years named Paul, and he was my best man at my wedding, and although we weren't from Texas, we didn't cause quite the trouble those guys did. We kind of had that as our theme song too. All right, now we're just entering ridiculously good territory. You know, there's and this one might cause a little controversy for being so low, and I hope you forgive me. And if you don't, it's my video. But Red-Headed Stranger, coming in at number 5. And if you put this at your number 1, or 2, 3, 4, if you put it anywhere in front of this, I cannot blame you. This is damn near a perfect record, if not a perfect record. And the reason it's not as high as a couple of the others, they touch me on an emotional level a bit more than this one does. But this was Willie's first album with Columbia Records. He was guaranteed complete creative control. When he turned in this sparse acoustic masterpiece, they said, "Oh, that's a great demo. Where's the rest of the album?" And he sort of chuckled and said, "That's it," and hung up the phone on him. And so, you know, he used to sing and it's a murder ballad actually, The Red-Headed Stranger. He sang it as a lullaby to his kids when they were little. And, you know, leave it to Willie, who himself, of course, had red hair, which, you know, kinfolk there. Time of the Preacher, I couldn't believe it was true. Time of the Preacher theme, Blue Rock, Montana, Red-Headed Stranger, the great Fred Rose song that he had the massive, massive hit with, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. Then the full song, Red-Headed Stranger, Time of the Preacher theme, Just As I Am, Denver, Over the Waves, Down Yonder, Can I Sleep in Your Arms Tonight, Lady, Remember Me When the Candlelights Are Burning, Handle on the Wheel, and Bandera. And there was a fantastic CD legacy edition of this that had some bonus tracks, and I recommend that too if you want the complete story, although it's not necessary, it's just for us completists. But The Red-Headed Stranger is what broke Willie big time, and there he was in his 40s. So it just goes to show, follow your dreams, follow your heart, as he always has, and success will come. It just may not come on the time you want it to. So, and I'm trying to live with that one too. So anyway, you know, really neat cover work that sort of tells the story through illustrations on the back. And so, yeah, you know, he used the band he wanted to here again, and mostly the same family band. And yeah, number 5, Red-Headed Stranger. Number 4 is another newer one, and this came out as a limited run on Music on Vinyl, and I thought, I kind of hesitated to get it, and then I thought, oh, the completist in me needs it. And so, Band of Brothers. Yeah, it did not get a wide vinyl release. Music on Vinyl made a brilliant, even though it's blue vinyl, and I'm not really a colored vinyl fan, the sound on this is phenomenal. And Willie, he started the creative comeback with country music, and he put out a few albums and toured like mad. This album, though, this might be the best latter-day Willie Nelson album, from the second half of his career, or at least from 2010 onward. I would argue this is his best work. And so, this co-written a lot of songs with Buddy Cannon, produced by Buddy Cannon, and they've made I don't know how many albums together now. Bring It On, The Guitar in the Corner, The Wall, Bring It On, I love. They say there is no gain without pain, so I must be gaining a lot. I'll give it all that I got, so bring it on. Beautiful ballad here, Whenever You Come Around, written by Vince Gill. One of the funniest songs you'll ever hear. I love my wives and I love my girlfriends. May they never meet. Goes through 11 wives in 3 minutes on this one. I thought I left you, so why aren't you leaving me? Sent me a picture. Beautiful song. Used to Her is fun. The Get Go, written by Billy Joe Shaver, is to me the only weak track on this album, and this one I might get some flack for saying that, and it's because it's a duet with Jamie Johnson, and I don't think Willie and Jamie Johnson's voices go together. Willie can sing with whoever the hell he wants to. I'm not going to stop him, but I would have preferred just Willie singing that. He covers he wrote Band of Brothers, or Band of Brothers and Sisters, whatever's, and we're going to break all the rules, and he just talks about being inclusive on that one, and it's beautiful. It's a very humorous song. The other Billy Joe Shaver song on here, Hard to Be an Outlaw, which he actually duetted with Shaver on Shaver's 2014 album as well. I Love You Because You're Crazy Like Me. Whisper and Bill Anderson has a great song on here called The Songwriters. And then the closing song, I've got a lot of traveling left to do. I can't forget the shit you put me through. I got a lot of traveling left to do. It's a very funny song. And so this is, when this came out in 2014, I just listened to it over and over and over. And his guitar playing's phenomenal, and his voice is phenomenal. So really, if you can find the music on vinyl pressing, again, if you can't, and you have the opportunity to get the CD, go for it. So now we're into the holy trinity of Willie Nelson records, and number 3 and 2 could swap at any given time. I will say that. So if you rank these a little higher, great. If you rank them lower, great. Everything is subjective. It's where we are when we're listening to it, how it touches us, how it makes us feel. Cheers. This is another one. Modern Classics Recordings and Light in the Attic put this one out on a very limited run, and I paid more than I probably wanted, but it was worth every penny to get the masterpiece, Teatro. It's got a Latin flair, it's got a Mexican flair to it. This is not your typical Willie Nelson album. Starts out with the French song that I can't really pronounce, but Where Are You, My Love? It's just a little instrumental, and then it goes into I Never Cared for You. And a lot of these are older songs, some newer, but a lot are older. And Willie re-recorded them, and Emmylou Harris does harmony vocals on just about everything on here. The two of them, Willie looked in fine spirits here. Willie's voice was phenomenal. His guitar playing was as good as it ever had been here. Emmylou sounded great. So this is, it's not a thematic album. It's just great songs, and some are sad and some are funny. And the maker on here by Daniel Lanois, who produced this, and if you're familiar with Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind and Oh Mercy, Daniel Lanois produced those, and I don't know if Willie enlisted him, but it has that same atmospheric effect, and I love it. It was recorded in an old theater, Um, so anywho, I'll always love you in my own peculiar way. Home Motel, The Maker, Darkness on the Face of the Earth, Everywhere I Go, and yeah, just the 3 days. I Loved You All Over the World. Somebody Pick Up My Pieces. Just, oh my gosh, just amazing songs on here. And Willie, he reinvented himself and put out one of the best albums of his career. So 1998, and this to me was his last great record until country music. Teatro, courtesy of Light in the Attic, and segueing into Light in the Attic, they released Spirit on yellow vinyl for Record Store Day Black Friday some years ago. I wasn't going to buy it, and then the moment I saw it, my hand just I couldn't stop myself. I absolutely could not. And my friend, who was also a teacher back in high school, one of my teachers, C.E. Sickinga, one of the most brilliant musical minds that I know as far as trivia and knowledge, I said, oh, I couldn't help myself. He said, yeah, it was eventual. I said it had to happen. And this is just Willie and Jody Payne and Bobby Nelson on piano and Johnny Gimbel on fiddle. And it is a sparse, acoustic, beautiful, beautiful album. This is another one that got me through some really hard times and is helping me to get through hard times. And, you know, she's gone. Your memory won't die in my grave. I'm not trying to forget you anymore. I've been too sick to pray, Lord. Waiting forever. I guess I've come to live here in your eyes. Great song called We Don't Run, We Don't Compromise. I thought about you, Lord. Spirit of 59. Opens and closes with an instrumental mariachi tune called Matador. I love that candid shot of Willie's hands, and he was in his 60s then already, and it was already the working man's hands. And so anyway, number 2, Willie Nelson's Spirit. I cannot say enough about this. Do yourself a favor and listen to this one every chance you get. And if you can find a vinyl pressing, again, do it. If it costs money, as it did with me, do it. It's worth it. Which brings us to number 1, and we go all the way back. Not all the way, not to the 60s or the 50s when he first started playing professionally. We go back to 1974 for Phases and Stages. Concept album. Side 1 is the woman's point of view of the breakup. Side 2 is the man's. This is a rollicking outlaw country honky-tonk blues album like none other. It's a tour de force. It's less than 40 minutes, I think. There's Willie with his red hair looking a little menacing. So many classic songs on here, so many that would go on to be live staples, and he would re-record several other times. The Phases and Stages theme, Washing the Dishes. Phases and Stages theme, Walking. Pretend I Never Happened. Sisters Coming Home / Down at the Corner Beer Joint. How Will I Know I'm Falling in Love Again? That's side 1. It's told from her point of view. She gets up, she's fed up with his nonsense. She goes home. She enjoys herself, she dances, and maybe her heart starts opening up again. Side 2, Bloody Mary Morning. He's on a jet out of Houston. He's flying home, doesn't know what's waiting for him, or better yet, what isn't waiting for him, which is the woman that he had scorned and wronged, and she just said, nope, I'm done. So the Phases and Stages theme, No Love Around. I still can't believe you're gone. It's not supposed to be that way. Heaven and Hell, Phases and Stages theme. Pick Up the Tempo, Phases and Stages theme. So he puts that in there as a segue many, many times. And so, anyway, number 1 out of all my Willie Nelson albums, when this showed up at Off the Record back in 2018, I was looking through the new incoming used albums. I gasped. I physically gasped. I could not believe I'd finally found a vinyl copy, and one in really nice shape too. And that's why it's so important, everybody. I say this all the time. Support your local record stores. Mine is Off the Record here in Grand Haven. There are so many here in West Michigan. There's so many across the country. They've popped back up. Go to your local brick and mortar stores. Okay, end of rant there. So anyway, Willie Nelson albums. Top 12. Number 12, Yesterday's Wine. Number 11, Tougher Than Leather. Number 10, Last Man Standing. Number 9, Country Music. Number 8, A Beautiful Time. Number 7, Shotgun Willie. Number 6, Me and Paul. Number 5, Red-Headed Stranger. Number 4, Band of Brothers. Number 3, Teatro. Number 2, Spirit. Number 1, Phases and Stages. So thank you, everybody. Video turned out to be just a wee bit longer than I planned, but not as long as it could have been the way I prattle on. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I hope everybody's doing well. Please interact below. I've had a couple of people in past videos be a little, not rude, but you know, in the age of the keyboard warrior, things perhaps come off in ways you don't mean them. And maybe they meant to be, I don't know. Snarky might be a good term. This page exists for no rudeness, no snark, just to sit here and discuss what we like, what we don't like. If you don't agree with any of these, that's okay. Willie's got a couple hundred albums out there between, you know, like I say, record companies, best ofs, semi-legal albums. There's just, gosh, there's just a plethora. I could start with any of these and be happy. I started with the greatest hits, and that's usually the best way to go. Willie's greatest hits and some that will be. I don't rank it in here because it's purely a compilation. There was no new music on it. But anyway, so Willie, thank you so much for everything you've done from all of us. You're my guru. Again, please comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorites are. Let me know if by pure chance this is your top 12 and it's a different ranking, fine. Leave me your top 12, 10, 5, 3, whatever. And I look forward to interacting with everybody. Take care of yourselves, and thank you once again for your very kind attention.